Hey everybody, what's going on? James here, urban-picker.com. And tonight I wanted to start a new video. As I've said before in a lot of my videos, when I first started the business, I used to scroll eBay for hours and hours every night, uh, learning things, learning what to sell and things like that. So I thought, you know what? That might be a nice little video concept to do every few days. We're just going to scroll eBay, look at things that have sold, what they're selling for, and learn together about that. But for tonight, I'm going to start with 5 items that I've sold plenty of. I know good, decent enough, information about things of that nature, just to get the ball rolling, and we'll see where it goes from there. And so, if you want to learn and see what kind of things sell on eBay and maybe learn a thing or two, let's get this thing started. So I typed in just 5 different things that I know good stuff about, and we'll start there. Obviously, you've probably heard me talk about CDs before, first pressings, Japan, West Germany, and Target CDs. Now, what Target CDs are is you can tell because they're some of the first pressing CDs. They were either pressed in West Germany or Japan. If we scroll down here a little bit, here's what a Target CD looks like. It'll have a dotted line going across and a couple of dots going up and down. So it technically looks like a target. So that's where it gets its name from. If you find popular names with this CD, you can make some big money. So whenever you're in those thrift stores, go through the CDs, look at them, pop them open, take a look at the disc itself, see if it has that target on there, see if it says made in Japan or made in West Germany, usually around the bottom silver part. Sometimes on a disc like this, it'll be printed in these little boxes here. On a silver CD like this, it'll be printed right about this area. So definitely always pop them open and look and see if they're made in Germany or Japan. If they are, look them up. They're worth the time. Here's another close look at Target CD. I personally have never ran across that one. If I did, I'd probably hold it in my collection for a little bit just because Motley Crue is my #1 band. I've never even seen it before, so that's kind of cool. And actually, when we go on to the second subject, I got to remember this album because there's another Holy Grail by Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil, in the next subject we're going to go to. These are not Target CDs, but these were made in West Germany, made in Japan. So that West Germany targeted air. So he's just trying to get traffic from that genre, those words. You're technically not even supposed to do that. So this was printed in Japan. It'll probably say it right there in those little words. And might as well pop it open and take a look. I don't have the whole screen. Sorry. There we go. Yeah, so see, there it is, made in Japan. So always check CDs, pop them open, just take a quick look, see if they're made in Japan. It's obviously not going to be your newer artists. It's going to be stuff that looks like it was produced in the early 80s, early to mid 80s. So Queen, Iron Maiden. I've never seen the Iron Maiden one. So let's pop this open here, see if should have some Okay, there we go. Yeah, this ain't a Target CD either. Yeah, I've seen this one before. So made in West Germany in that square I told you about. Because a lot of these artists, there's a lot of collectors out there for Maiden, Queen, uh, Elvis, obviously. So Quarter Flash, I've sold this one before. Let's see, there's another Motley Crue. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Madonna, self-titled. I've sold the yellow one before. Led Zeppelin, I think I had that one. I've sold James Taylor. I've never had no James Taylor ones. but I've sold a lot of different ones. The one I sold for the highest, I wish I could remember the exact dollar amount. Let me see if anybody has any up. It was a U2 CD, and it was War. And see how this one's purple with the green target? Mine was actually reverse. It was green with a purple target. And that is a very, very limited one. I had it up for about $1,000. I don't remember what I got out of it. Sat in the store for a little bit. I want to say in between $400 and $500 is what I got out of it. Let's see if there's any live. No, just that one. So there's a lot of money out there in CDs if you know what to look for. So there's a few things there for you to look for. Let me see if I can think of anything else. I'll go down, take a look at a few more here, see if anything rings any bells, jogs any memories. Sister. Yeah, not really. All right, so we'll move on to the next one. The next one is 8-track tapes. A lot of people don't even pay attention to 8-tracks. I've been looking for this one in the wild for a very long time. I've never found it. I wish I could find it because that's some serious money, but Frank Sinatra, that's a good piece right there. Speaking of, another good one is the Holy Grail I was speaking of, Motley Crue on 8-track. I've always heard rumors that Shout of the Devil was put on 8-track in very limited numbers. I've never seen one. I've never come across one. But if it is true and there is one out there, that's huge money. Just like this Bon Jovi self-titled, $299. They took an offer on it. Your best finds in 8-tracks are going to be your hard rock and heavy metals or your early jazz stuff. See, there's some Doors right there. George Harrison, especially if you can find them sealed like that, a big name like George Harrison sealed. And this was 87, so this is later. This is when they weren't really putting out 8-tracks. So to have something like this on 8-track, that's huge. I'm questioning if that's even real. Just because they didn't push 8-tracks that late. But dude's got good feedback, so there we go. Oh, it looks like maybe a big old promo kit. Includes a promo 4-page, so it includes it, but it's not it. Well, there you go. See, I learned something new. Pretty kick-ass. Even though I grabbed any Beatles 8-tracks are decent too. And the better condition you get them in, the more money you're going to get out of them. Let's see here. And here's another thing to look for: quadraphonic, or just called quad, or on some of them it'll say Q8, and that means quadraphonic. This one looks like it'll say Q8 on it. Let me pull it up. So RCA, I think, just used Q8. Yeah, there we go, right there. Q8, and on the spine it should say the same right there, Q8. So Q8, quad, or quadraphonic. Those are going to be, and what that is it's supposedly, if you've got a high-end system, it's a lot better sound quality. There's no Sex Pistols, sealed. Nice. When it comes to 8-track, I cannot remember the highest dollar value one I've sold offhand. Probably easily over $100, probably several over 100, but I can't remember exactly dollar amount wise. That's cool. That's a double one, sealed still. Grand Funk. Bob Seger. I've never seen this one. I still have probably, I want to say 2,000 8 tracks still in storage that I need to get around to. And I know there's a lot of rare stuff in there because I got my stuff. It was a local guy who he was actually in a newspaper for biggest music collection. He had CDs and cassettes and 8 tracks and vinyl. And he was actually in the newspaper for having the biggest collection, I guess, of this area or whatever. And he was going blind. And he decided just to sell everything off. And he was putting a lot of his favorites, onto computer and stuff like that. So he could still listen to it, but he couldn't enjoy looking at it anymore. So there was really no point in him having it. He was basically giving it away. A local shop owner here, Vintage Vinyl, it's a big store here in St. Louis. I know the owner pretty well, and he took the vinyl and the CDs, and he called me and asked me if I wanted the 8 tracks and cassettes. And so what I did was the guy getting rid of them, he just wanted $250 for all the 8 tracks and cassettes. I probably got about 12,000 pieces total for $250. And I gave, his name's Gene from Vintage Vinyl. He owns the building, he owns the company. And I gave him $250 as a finder fee for it. It was definitely worth it. Uh, I've made, I probably made 250 just from one item from that lot of stuff. So that's how good that stuff was. And I wish I remember the guy's name. I'd look him up and see if he's still around. I've sold a lot of hard to get Phil Collins stuff. There's a Deep Purple Quadraphonic. Pink Floyd's definitely a big name. And it's hard to find imports on 8-track and stuff like that. Factory sealed Kiss. So if you see something that's like Ramones, punk rock, if it's old punk rock, Sex Pistols, Ramones, if it's old hard rock, heavy metal, your Motley Crues, even your into your early 80s with your that like you saw that Bon Jovi self-titled, that was I believe 82 it was released. Shout the Devil was 83. Uh, and then obviously your Kiss. Those don't go for those are there's a lot of them out there, but they go for good money. And if you get them in just pristine condition, they can go for even more. Pink Floyd. Surprised I haven't seen no Def Leppard yet. There's some Led Zeppelin. Paul McCartney and Wings, Quadraphonic. The Clash. I like how some of the newer bands are releasing like a limited supply on 8-track and cassettes and stuff nowadays, not just the vinyl. So this is a Ghost album released on 8-track. I'm guessing they did it because there is a homemade market out there where people will make homemade versions of stuff that was never on 8-track. If you get into some of the groups on Facebook, 8-track collectors and stuff, you will see that a lot of people make their own 8-tracks, which is kind of cool, but you can't really sell them. So at least you're not supposed to anyway, because it's copyright issues. Bruce Springsteen sealed. There's one not sealed. Nice condition. Black Sabbath. There's let's see if I can come across one here. I'm surprised one's not popping up. Something like Black Sabbath, and there's a couple of other artists where there's going to be different covers, different stickers on the 8-track itself. Nothing there. It's basically solid black with white writing. So you'll have like a version, like say a Black Sabbath, War Pigs, or whatever. There's another ghost with the picture on it, but then you'll have another version that's just black with white writing. And I believe, what did I get? Out of one of the, I think it was a Black Sabbath. I want to say I got about $180 out of that because it was a higher dollar one, hard to find. Let me, I'll go type it in after a few more flips here to see if there's any up. So, let's see. Black Sabbath. Here's one, not in very good shape. This is Black Sabbath's Black Sabbath. $91, but that's the label I was speaking of. And they usually come, why they're black is they came in this cardboard slipcase with the cover on them. So they didn't print it on the 8-track also. Here's one, but a different color, light gray. And that's even a quadraphonic. That maybe, no, because I don't think the one I had was quadraphonic. Maybe it was. It's been a while, so I can't really remember. And you'll see, like here, you'll see different versions. This one's got the yellow casing on it. This one is the what is it called? Something 8. They're not quadraphonic Q8s. They are Ampex, I believe it's the name on the spine. Yeah, Ampex. I was just going to say something else too, and I totally lost it. Oh, there's a collector's market too in, or not really a collector's market, but there's a differentiation. Well, this one, like this one, Black Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. This is a record club version from, if you remember, or if you were around at the time, Columbia Records, the mail-in where you can get 15 8-tracks for a penny or whatever. Here's the original cover, and then there's going to be versions out there from the record companies, or the BMG and Columbia Music Clubs, record clubs. And there is a market out there for people, people want both versions, the original versions and the version from the music club, and it'll have a much smaller picture. Whoops. And they usually have the double numbers. I would come off of it, but it's going to take me off of it. This M8 and this S1 underneath it, it's going to have both numbers on it. And that's how you can kind of really tell it's a music club version. If I remember right, it's the S1 is the indicator that it's the music club, because this one will probably have closer to the M number. Let's see. M82695. So the S and that number kind of indicates that it's the music club version. So there's a lot of money in 8-tracks, and you can get them pretty cheap normally. But like I said, if you're going to yard sales, what have you, keep an eye out for hard rock, heavy metal. That's going to be the two biggest ones, or some classic stuff like your Beatles and Led Zeppelin. See, I typed in Black Sabbath. That's why there's all Black Sabbath coming up. You forgot, James. All right. So there's a little history there. Obviously, this one you probably know, vintage concert t-shirts. Close to my heart because I grew up in the 80s and had some of these shirts that are now selling for $1,500 and what have you. And actually, I probably still got some around here in a box somewhere because I outgrew them over time and I would never throw them away. So I'd put them in a box. This is a cool one. It's got all Ozzy's tattoos on it. $660. Here too, the money's going to be in your classic bands like U2, in your punk, and in your metal. And the thing is, the kids nowadays are wearing these shirts and they don't even know who the band is. There's a couple of times where somebody's wearing a shirt and I'll go up and I'll be like, call out the band and I'll be like, name 3 of their songs. And they don't know any of them. Back in my day, we used to call that a poser. When you act like you liked something but you knew nothing about it, we called that poser. So, Bruce Springsteen. I'm waiting to see. If it was easy to bring up, I would, but got a picture on Facebook of me in an Iron Maiden Peace of Mind shirt back in probably like $89. And there is a big market. There's a lot of people who search for this stuff at the bins. That's all they go for. That's all they want. That's all they care about. Of course, I look out for them too. But it's a market that is heavily sought after. So there's a lot of people out there hunting for these. So finding them is a little harder in 2019 than it was in, say, 2017 when I used to come across them all the time. The last decent one I sold was a Pearl Jam Yield. I think I got, and it was only like a $50 one, I believe I got out of it. Paid like $1 or $2 for it. Wasp and Godfathers. David Lee Roth World Tour. That's a cool one. Eat 'em and smile. Memories. Bring back. I had this one. I may still have it. I picked it up at the concert in 1989 here in St. Louis. We saw him here in St. Louis with, was it Warrant opened up for him or Faster Pussycat? And then we went down to Columbia, Missouri, where they played down there also. And one or the other opened up for him. Warrant opened up here or there, and Faster Pussycat the same. So I had that one, and which I may still have somewhere in a box. The Cure, Bad Brains, Metallica. Man, I love this stuff. So that's a pretty easy one that pretty much everybody knows about. So on to the next. Let's see what I got next for you here. Wrestling toys. So wrestling figures. I've sold tons of wrestling figures. And I'm going to give you a YouTube channel also if you don't follow wrestling or the toys. I've sold plenty of them. Old Steiners, man, that's crazy. From Galoob. Ultimate Warrior signed. He's passed on, so that's why his is probably going for some good money there. And you got these old LJN ones on card. There's two wrestlers out there who's got a YouTube channel, Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. And they go around the country when they're traveling and go into toy stores looking for vintage figures. Only they don't collect them per se. They collect them, but they rip them out of the packages, and I'm like, ugh, makes me cringe. Like, no. But there's all kinds of, like, at the top here, you saw the prototypes. These are basically they were made to make the molds for the original, for the line itself. It's Bret Hitman Hart, $4,500. Here they are on YouTube, the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. I'll try to remember to link this below if you want to check them out. They're funny too, and it's fun to watch them. The one episode, he ended up spending like, I think, $5,000 on one figure. So you can pick up a lot of knowledge on wrestling toys from these guys. Oops, wrong one. So let's get down here a little bit more. Obviously, these are all bigger items. Let's just fast forward. I had a huge wrestling collection, toy collection, that I had sold off. I had I had a video game room where I had almost every video game system, thousands and thousands of video games. I had a huge wrestling collection, Nightmare Before Christmas collection, St. Louis Blues collection. I've sold most of it off over the years to help with the business. Like these rings, I've had tons of these rings, just 35 figures. Andre the Giant, nice one right there. And toys now too, if you don't know, if you find a really, really rare toy, you can get it graded nowadays and make it worth even more. The same with video games and boxes. Um, let's do this. So here we go. There's what Hulk Hogan, it's graded. Normally there's like the box it's put in is, you can tell it's graded because none of these really show it. Let me do this. NINTLNES game graded. So here's what we're looking at when we're looking at graded video games. Let me get a US one here, like this Legend of Zelda. Paid $900 for this. This is sealed in a package with the grade of the condition of the box and the contents in the box. So I believe 100 is your best. So this is like 70, hence why it's so expensive. I mean, even something simple like Tiny Toons. This was sealed. I think grading, if I remember right from watching some videos, I think it's about $80 to have something graded. Like this is 9.8, almost perfect. So that'd be 9.8 out of 10. Still sealed. Sold for $800. So it's worth, investing $100 basically to have it graded, especially if you paid nothing for it, because you're going to get a lot more out of it. It might be a little harder to move, but you're going to get a lot more out of it. Because let's take this one for example, Tiny Toon Adventures. NES. Whoops. Wireless keyboard. See? Just open and used, $30. Just the case, $3.99. But you got a sealed copy. Let's see if we. Whoops! What did I hit? Oh, I hit the right thing. For some reason, that didn't come up. So here's like the thing complete for $45. I'm trying to think real quick. Yeah, because that one's not sealed. So I was gonna say maybe they only grade sealed games, but they grade not sealed ones. Bomberman, Batman, Link. Zelda's always a good buy. Original Tetris, 513 rated. So that's the rating. So definitely do especially if you find an old vintage game that's sealed, do your homework before you just sell it sealed and see if it is worth sending in and have it graded, and could make you a lot more money. Next, we'll get into one of my favorites, Jordan shoes. Those are cool. A movie prop from Space Jam. That's kick-ass. A lot of these you're probably not going to come across just because the market has gotten so big that finding this stuff is very difficult. Even a beat pair of fire red 4s, original, $5,000. And these are not even wearable. Check this out. They don't have to be in perfect condition. You see all this cracking down here? All this is falling apart. That's what happens with these shoes over time. They'll fall apart. This will not be worn, but the market is so huge out there that there is a collector's market just for the original shoes, no matter the condition. Keep that in mind when you see a pair of Jordans at your bins or wherever, no matter the condition it is in, pick it up. If you're not familiar with the shoes, look it up. Like I've said before on how to do it, is look up with the numbers. I'll pull this one up. Well, that's weird. October, November, December. It's only 2 months. Let me pull. This was looks like one. This was an original pair. Original owner of the pair, even too, is selling it. So these are different because they're so old. They're not going to have the old tags that you see in shoes nowadays. So the older it looks, the more beat up it looks, the more you might want to investigate instead of just saying, oh, that's a used pair of shoes. That's not worth anything. Obviously, and I've said before about the tag on the inside. If you pick up a pair and it has the tag, just look up that 9-digit number, and you can do that really quick. Um, Here's another pair of original fire red 4s. See all that cracking? If you saw this at the bench, you would probably walk right by it. You'd be like, I ain't touching that thing. It's probably got diseases on it. Look at that. It's even coming apart. They're not even connected anymore. And they sold for $3,000. So don't just walk by the Jordans, because you could be walking by $1,000. So a lot of these newer ones you're not going to find. They're very limited. I didn't even get any of them when I tried to score on the nightcap and stuff like that. So then on this newer stuff, you got to be very careful. There's a huge fake market out there. And if you don't know shoes, if you don't know the smell of shoes, it's very hard to tell the difference. Even if you do know shoes, it's getting more and more difficult to tell the difference. First thing that sets me off normally is the smell, because I know what the smell is of a new shoe. And usually with the fakes, they use a different glue, so it has a different smell to it. Then you have stuff like this, like these were given to the players in Oregon that at the university, and some made it. I would love to have a pair of these in size 12. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. 13s are my favorite Jordans. Here's another pair of 13s with Python. So, pair of autographed ones. So, let's see. These off-whites are just freaking killing it, man. Nike knows what to do. So here's a player exclusive, meaning it was given to like Earl Thomas, and it was from his collection, or it was a test one, or given to his friends and family, stuff like that. Trophy Room 5. Trophy Room is a store in Florida. Florida? Yeah, Florida. That is run by Michael Jordan's son. So sometimes they get exclusive shoes. They got 2 pairs of 5s not too long ago. And of course, I missed out on both of them. As you can see in the red, this one's got, it's one of 7,000 produced. Wish I had connections to get those, but no way. Wasn't going to happen. Whoops, where am I at? Okay. There's another Oregon Ducks. So those things you're probably not going to come across. The easiest thing that you're probably going to come across, like I said, is a beat up pair of, some of the original ones that are just laying around that everybody's passing up because they're old and beat up and they look like trash. If they even make it to the store or to the floor of the store and don't get thrown out in the back because of the condition. So there you go. 11s are huge market out there for the 11s. I mean, I could school you. I could make thousands of videos on shoes, and I could drown you in information, and you would just be overwhelmed. So I'll just stick with that and say, if you see an old pair of Jordans, don't pass it up because it looks beat. Grab it and look it up. You may do it 100 times, and actually, you may do it 10,000 times and not find one, but it only takes that one to score. So, all right. So, if you like me doing this, give me a thumbs up and all that, and then maybe I want to eventually get into more stuff that so I can be learning something new too, so we can learn some new stuff together, if you will. So I figured I'd just start with something I know, and then maybe the next time I do this, I'll start with one thing I know, and then we'll just build off that. We'll let the way I used to do it was if I saw something, then that would jog something else. Well, let's try this, let's try that. And that's how I would learn. So maybe next time we'll go that route. So if you like this and this was helpful in any sort of way, please like, subscribe, urban-picker.com to buy. And I'm closing down for the night and going to go watch the new Bigfoot show and see how that is. Because, yes, I like Bigfoot stuff and UFO stuff. So, thanks everybody for watching. And later, Gators. Get back here, you button. Later.